In this video, I'm going to be going over the brief history of the toy, some basic maintenance tips on how to prolong the life of the toy, and a real quick rundown of an intro of how you can start playing with Tri-Thology. So this toy is new to a lot of people, but I invented this when I was a teenager. I got into Skilltoys pretty early on in my life, and Astrojax was one of the things that I really stuck to. And believe it or not, when I first saw the commercial, I actually thought they were playing with the Tri-Thology. I never thought anything of it for years. But I had this moment in my room when I was 12 or so, and I just had this light bulb go off. I remembered it, a loop of string with the 3 handles on it, and I immediately went to Home Depot and bought pulleys with rotating swivels on it and just threw them onto a yo-yo string. In fact, I have the very set that I first made. It wasn't the best because you can see it didn't really twist, and I had to solve that problem pretty quick, but I knew I had something here. I began experimenting with different balls, different shapes, using swivels, and I eventually got to this shape. This is one of the first legitimate Tri-Thologies I ever made. They used to be filled with water, and they dried out after a couple decades. This is one of the last sets I have. So, because the water dried out, I needed to fix that issue. And I came up with this design where instead of balloons, I put tennis balls inside. And this is the one I decided to go with. This particular set is very old. As you can see, the string is very frayed, and there's these little bumps that are poking out of here. This is a set that I decided never to maintain because I wanted to see how bad it actually got. As bad as the string looks, it plays just like any other Tri-Thology. The fuzziness of the string might just make it spin a little bit slower, but it can still do everything a brand new Tri-Thology can do. Using these socks is cool and all, but it was a little bit more tedious, and I wanted to minimize the design. My entire life, I've been looking for factories to make this, but it's just one of these things that factories will say they can maybe do it, and then they give up on it. The string being seamless is a very hard thing to achieve. Attaching swivels to balls that don't yank out is also pretty hard to do through factories. And I've made a lot of toys since I started my toy business, and a lot of them are designing on the computer and sending them out and getting a shipment in. So I decided, since I'm not putting a lot of labor into the other toys, I think I'll eat the time and just start hand making Tri-Thology myself. If I have to become the factory, I will, and that's where these come into play. So on the packaging, you'll see it says 20 inches, and what this represents is the length right here. So this green set is also a 20-inch set. It actually means that the entire circumference of the string is 40 inches. So any number that the Tri-Thology is labeled as, you double for the full length of the string. Now, dealing with circles and loops can be pretty crazy because of sizing. 20, 21, 22, and 26 inches are vastly different. Even though 20 to 21 is just an extra inch or two, it kind of changes the flow of the toy. One size is not better than another size. They're all just different. So when you open the packaging, they come in a bag. The string is stuffed in here. You just remove this paper around it to open up the string, and you have a fresh new set of Tri-Thology. Now, this string connection that I do is my own technique, and I'm not actually gonna teach how I do it. It's very strong though. I've never had a Tri-Thology string break. This is about 15 years old, and it just has maybe one thread poking off right here. And if that happens, just get a pair of scissors and snip it off. The connection point is pretty strong, but you don't want to pull too hard on it. You never want to put too much stress on this because it's not perfect. It can break, but with my method, it makes it pretty durable. With that being said, you cannot change the string. So the string is technically set. If you want to take it apart and try to restring it yourself and do your own technique, you can do that. It's just not recommended. So if you want your string to stay pristine and not end up like this one that I let go, there's some tips that I need to show you. Because Tri-Thology is swinging all the time and the string is always shifting through the swivel and pulling it at different angles, the inside of the string might pop out in what I call string hernias. This little thing right here is a string hernia. They pop up with hard play. If you're doing a lot of rebounds and hard, rough pulling, these tend to pop out. Most paracord has inner strands, and that is what these string hernias are. I had to force this one out myself. It's not a natural string hernia, so it might not act the same as these. But whenever this happens, what you can try to do is to massage it back in. But sometimes if it's too far out, what you need to do is just pull it a little bit out, maybe like 1/2 millimeter out, carefully cut those inner strands, and then pull the string and massage it back inside so that that inner strand is not poking out anymore. And that's how you get rid of a string hernia and prevent it from pulling out fully. These can just keep going and going and going. And like I said, I just let this one go just to see how it plays. And it's fine, it's just kind of a performance issue. Now that you know how to take care of the string, the swivels are pretty good. If they ever were to bind up and get dirt in them or dust in them, you can always drop some machine oil in it and get them going and greased up. But my new method of making these I think is very good. Just like any other do-it-yourself toy that's handmade, you don't want to be extremely rough with it. These are durable and they're built. I've never broke them myself, but you don't want to pull super hard on this area because you can damage it. But this is a type of toy where you don't really need to be slamming it around. It's not like poi in the sense you might be hitting it really hard off your body. It's a lot more like Astrojax where you're doing softer rebounds. So if you end up breaking it some way, it's because you were way too violent with it. It's not a toy that you need to be pushing around. When you get Tri-Thology out of the package, one simple way to get it going is to rotate the bottom. And depending on if you're right or left-handed, I'm gonna keep my hold in the right hand. So when the ball is on the outside of me, away from me, the furthest away, I'm just gonna take my left hand and scoop and toss. And that'll get it into a rotation. You can do that in lots of different ways. You can reverse the spin too. But my favorite way is to hit it off of the side of your hip and then let go, because that gives it a lot of speed. The first reaction for most people is to try to orbit it like Astrojax. But this toy is not like Astrojax in the sense this will not continue it. You can keep doing this and eventually it will die of momentum. The only reason you need to bounce it is to keep it stable. So if you do a bad throw like this and you bounce it a little, it gets the triangle stable and not swirling around erratically. The horizontal play of Tri-Thology allows you to think a lot more than most other toys. The horizontal motion and play of Tri-Thology makes it a little bit different than other toys. I can grab right here and I can stop to think about what to do. Of course, you don't want to tangle it that much, but I'm just showing you an example is when I grab it, I can go, what do I do right now? Oh, I'm gonna grab this one. So it gives you a little bit more time to think. In most positions from this move, if you grab the bottom, you can think a minute, grab, think a minute, let go, think a minute, let go, think a minute. So the toy gives you opportunities if you do make mistakes. You could say, let's say you miss a catch. You still have all these opportunities to grab and recover. And sometimes that can be very extreme. You can say, miss a catch, 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 but still be able to grab and save it in some way. And just like Astrojax, you also can play with Tri-Thology as if it were on wall plane. So holding both and making a big circle, you can do rebounds off of your forearms, off your legs, start to juggle it. And from wall plane, you can always switch in and out of the different styles, which makes Tri-Thology a pretty unique toy. So that's just a quick history of the toy, some maintenance tips, and a real quick intro to get you started in playing with Tri-Thology. This is not the only version I will be making. I'm putting these out in batches. I have phases that I'm doing, and right now I have about 6 that are already planned. The reason why I did tennis balls is to stick with the roots of the toy, and also this is a good in-between Skilltoy and flow toy size. You can spin it like poi and big flow art movements, or you can keep it centralized like a Skilltoy, and the tennis balls being this big help prevent it from getting into knots. If I do smaller handle sizes, you're more likely to get knotted up. So I have a lot planned for this toy. It's been in the works for 26 years, and this is just the beginning. So if you buy one of the Tri-Thologies, you're helping grow and evolve the toy. And for everyone who's bought and purchased the Tri-Thology already, thank you, and I can't wait to see what other people come up with.